All right, guys, we are back with the Bleacher Preacher podcast for the NBA Finals. Right off the bat, it's Jonathan here, and Rob, how
What
you
up?
doing today?
What up? What up?
So I went back and listened to our NBA preview back in October, and we had the Raptors coming out of the East and the Warriors coming out of the West. And
Good
then
job.
with a whole bunch of storylines, drama, and other NBA shenanigans, we now end up at the last two teams being the Raptors and the Warriors. Funny how that happens when the two best teams in each conference actually make the finals, right?
It was a long road to get here. I think there was a lot of up and downs. There was a lot of doubt on both sides. With the KD injury, with the Kawhi load management. But on paper, we thought these two were the best two teams, and they proved it.
I think what really stood out to me, though, is we kind of, well, I don't want to say taken for granted, but Golden State just became very ingrained into this. Okay, let's show up when we need to and then take care of business from there. Then the Boogie Cousins injury happens. We see the bench is looking a bit older, a little creakier. And then KD goes down. And once again, everything lines up for Houston. And lo and behold, they can't get the job done. And we're reminded how good Golden State can be, even if you do not have a Kevin Durant. On the flip side, with the Raptors, everyone was crowning the Bucks as the next legitimate team in the East, with Giannis basically cementing his MVP case. Credit to the Raptors, man. They found a way to shut down Greeky, and the rest of the Bucks crumbled right behind him as well. I know this past Saturday was Game 6, and Milwaukee did a good job jumping out ahead, but just began to falter throughout the rest of the game until Kawhi time happened. I don't know if that's a phrase or anything yet, but I'm happy to see the Raptors in this stage, but I also feel bad for DeMar DeRozan.
I think the clear loser in this is DeMar DeRozan. I mean, I guess in Jakob Poeltl, who also got traded with DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi, but the clear number one loser in all of this would be DeMar DeRozan. As soon as LeBron leaves, and you think the Raptors are going to have a shot, they go ahead and they upgrade you into Kawhi Leonard, who has been the best player in the playoffs so far. And I feel for DeMar DeRozan, but I also feel like the look of just not this, but the look of joy and relief on Kyle Lowry's face when Kawhi was hitting the last two free throws at like the last 10 seconds in Game 6, man, is just how long and how much he suffered in the East, having to play LeBron James year after year after year and lose to LeBron James year after year. You kind of feel good for the Raptors. They finally got over the hump.
Another person you have to feel bad for is Dwayne Casey, who unfortunately did not stay with the Raptors, goes down to Detroit, squeezes in at the 8th seed just to receive 4 straight 20-point blowouts at the hand of the Bucks. Looking at the other side of the matchup in the East with the Bucks side of things, as I mentioned, everyone around Giannis just slowly began to crumble. And I'll even say, as a Celtics fan, it hurt me to see Chris Middleton to start missing shots magically, because I swore this man shot 120% from 3 in the previous series.
Yeah, it was just a bad series all around for the supporting cast. The first two games was really good in Milwaukee at home. Brook Lopez got off game 1. It was, it looked like it was going to be a Buck sweep, and the guys just, that's one of the thoughts that we had with Milwaukee. Who's going to be number 2? Was it going to be Chris Middleton? Was it going to be Eric Bledsoe? I know Chris Middleton made the All-Star team this year, but did we really think he was one of the top 25 players in the league? Brook Lopez at one time was a top 25 player in the league, and he showed game 1, he can still make an impact, but he's not going to do that consistently. Eric Bledsoe, as good as Eric Bledsoe is, he does have frustrating moments in the game, and it's just, it all compiled together with the fact that Giannis isn't really a guy that can make his own shot and whatnot, but when you're playing against Kawhi Leonard, you have to be special with the ball in your hand to create your own shot, to get points, to score and carry your team against Kawhi Leonard. There's only 4 or 5 guys in the league, James Harden, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron, that could hope to do that against Kawhi when Kawhi's locked in, and Giannis just isn't there yet.
And I think that will come with another offseason. He's already dedicated to himself of not only staying in Milwaukee, but looking to improve his game as a whole. We saw him make an incredible leap this year. But for me, it just got a little frustrating that once he couldn't hit shots in the paint, that he kind of let himself he didn't almost look the same anymore just because he wasn't seeing shots go in. And then when he started deferring to the Middletons, the Bledsoes, the Lopez's, and those shots aren't falling, then it's like, what more does Coach Bud need to have happen here? Because it's almost like the team was doing just fine up until this point. But, maybe we have to credit the Raptors coaching staff too. They made the necessary adjustments of, we've gotten hammered now 2 games in a row here, and they go on and win 4 straight.
I wonder what Milwaukee's going to do in the offseason, because Chris Middleton is a free agent. Brook Lopez is a free agent. Is this going to be the same? Is this it? Because I can definitely see somebody, Brook Lopez only made $3 million this season on a 1-year deal. I can see somebody definitely paying $10 million a year for Brook Lopez to come be a guy that plays 20 minutes a night and protects the rim, rebounds, and shoot threes, be a stretch 5. I definitely see somebody ponying up. He'd be perfect in Houston style of offense. He'd be perfect in a couple of teams, and he's probably going to get his money. Same thing with Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton is definitely a key factor, because he could be a guy where a team strikes out on a Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving in free agency, and somebody like Tobias Harris, somebody like Chris Middleton is going to go ahead and get the max from somebody just because, that they're left over. That's the leftover. They got to spend their money on somebody. I can see somebody like the Lakers, going out and maxing out Chris Middleton. And Chris Middleton is a good player, but he's not a $30 million a year player, in my opinion. He's a wonderful player. I'd love to have him on the team, but he's not a $30 million a guy player. And I can see a team like the Lakers who strike out on free agency and just be desperate and offer him $30 million a year.
Could you see Milwaukee being a landing spot for a Jimmy Butler? You think if they threw a lot of money at Jimmy to come in, that'd be a solid spot for him?
I just wonder how the books would work. I don't know if they would have to probably gut the rest of the team to open up enough cap space. I know they're losing a couple of guys, but I would have to go into it and find financially how they would make it work. But Jimmy Butler would have been perfect for this team. They could have used Jimmy Butler in the Eastern Conference Final. He'd be a perfect fit. A Kyrie, a Kemba, somebody like that create their own shot, while Giannis can just do everything while having that one closer. That's just the only person they're missing. It's just that one closer.
And again, we do have a big free agency season on deck, so we could be seeing that change here in the next few months. But Milwaukee's they're a small market team, and yeah, you have a superstar right now, but that's going to be a hard selling point to bring in, a Kyrie, Kemba, any of those top tier names when you already have, the Boston, New York, Miami's, LA, the big, essentially the big boys already kind of settling in here. So,
but I also see the East is kind of up for grabs. It's if Kawhi leaves Toronto and Kyrie leaves Boston, there's not really a big superpower. Philly could lose Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris and JJ Redick they're all free agents. It could be Milwaukee's the destination in the East because Giannis is going to be there, and Giannis is clearly a top 10 player in the league. If you're a free agent, I would want to be paired with Giannis. Giannis is literally 25. He's not even in his prime yet. He's still growing in his game. I would sign a 5-year deal, 4-year deal to be, you get to play with Giannis from age 25 to 29. When he gets to his prime, I'd jump at the offer to play with him.
And you can also, you can use that Kawhi line of thinking. He went from west to east, and I don't want to say it was a cakewalk, but he just carried a franchise to their first NBA final appearance. Looking at the West a little bit now, we touched on it already. Houston just flat out missed their chance now 2 years in a row. I don't see what they can do with this core now, knowing they've had two very prime opportunities and have blown each one in very different but frustrating ways.
Yeah, I wonder if they try to upgrade by trading away Clint Capella. I feel like the center position in Houston is not important to be paying Clint Capella $20 million a year. You could find rim runners. You could find like the Golden State Warriors have Jordan Bell, like Jordan Bell and Kayvon Looney. Like those guys would work perfectly in Houston's system. Like you could find a center in the second round, a center in the first round, like what have you, to be like that guy. Like they didn't really fall off too much when Capella was hurt, and they had Kenneth Faried and Nene and all those guys. They're really, you can find centers in this day and age to do what the Houston Rockets ask their centers to do, which is to protect the paint, rebound, and just play pick and roll. Like you can find those guys that are a dime a dozen. So paying Clint Capella $20 million a year, that'd be something I wouldn't do. So maybe moved him for a rotational piece in the wing, as well as like Chris Paul's contract and him. He's gonna end up making $40 million a year soon. I think he's at like 38 next year. That's something else to watch for too. Like, do you cut bait on Chris Paul?
Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to cut bait because you'll have to find some GM that'll be willing to take that deal. But as frustrating as it sounds for the Rockets, and I did like James Harden's MVP chances for a good portion of the season. I think it's the brand of basketball they play. They almost burn out too fast, and when you're seeing the same team in the playoffs, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, every other night, it's going to be hard to, rely on basically the same playbook over and over. Like you have to go outside your comfort zone here, maybe push some different buttons. And, you can even look at Harden going quiet in crunch time and, games, I believe it was 4.
He went quiet in a lot. Well, to be honest, he had a really good series.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6.
He didn't really go quiet. He just, he didn't do what we thought, because he set high bar. He didn't hit the high bar that he set for himself. So I mean, it wasn't quiet, but it wasn't the 40 10 and 10 James Harden from the season. To hit a couple of notes, GM stupid enough to trade for Chris Paul, the Lakers. The Lakers strike out on free agency and they go get LeBron's best friend.
Sign Melo, get the banana boat crew back in.
There always is a stupid GM that's gonna fall for it and trade for Chris Paul. It's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna get desperate. It'll happen. As well as that's a really big point on Houston played Golden State 6 games, and it's a game of adjustment and everything. But when KD got hurt, it almost like they changed their style of play and ended up playing a different way. They ended up reverting back to the pre-KD Warriors, the space and pace, death by 100 cuts, bombing threes from everywhere. They kind of reverted back to that, and it was like a different style than what Houston was playing before then. And it was kind of like a new team, and I think that kind of helped them a little bit.
It really, it surprised me, and this is a good surprise, how much better Draymond seemed to play after KD went out of the lineup. Like, I believe it was games 5 and 6. He was everywhere and anywhere he needed to be. And it was like the old Draymond came back again.
Especially against I know we're talking a lot about Houston, but like Houston didn't even play in the Western Conference Finals. It was Portland that played in the Western Conference Finals. Yes, it was a 4-0 sweep, but like Draymond was the best player on the floor in the conference finals. Like if they did it like MLB, where MLB has like the NLCS MVP and ALCS MVP, like the MVP of the conference finals was Draymond Green.
Easily. And it's funny that you bring up Portland, because those going to be other teams we touched on afterwards, but that could be another team. This could be as good as it gets for him, because we talk about money mismanagement. There's still going to be some hurdles they're going to have to figure out here, because it looks like Dame's going to get re-signed. They're pretty much going to keep the same core together. So they're hoping either someone on this roster continues to improve, i.e. Zach Collins, but
Well, they didn't have Yusuf Nurkic. I think Yusuf Nurkic would have made a very big difference in the series. At least somebody that could make Draymond work and tire Draymond out. So he didn't have that much energy just running around and putting his will, on the game. I think somebody like Yusuf Nurkic is a big factor. Yusuf Nurkic was their second best player this season. Now, CJ McCollum is really good. He is a very crafty, very underrated shooting guard. Very, very good. I love CJ's game, but Yusuf Nurkic was the second best player on that team, and those three can make noise in the West. It just sucks that Yusuf Nurkic was hurt. I think this was the best chance to beat the Warriors. With KD out and them trying to find their way and trying to play like the old Warriors, I think Yusuf Nurkic would have made a big difference in the series. At least win one game or something. But yeah, with Portland, there's not really an avenue for them to get better. There's not really pieces. They don't have really young players that they can package together in a trade unless they include one of CJ McCollum or one of Dame Lillard, which I don't think they're going to include Dame Lillard in a trade. He's probably going to get super matched. He's kind of the heart of the franchise. Somebody like CJ, maybe he gets traded, maybe not. I don't know who you would trade him for. I don't know who would make this team better, And like the only way they're going to really get better is hitting in the draft, finding somebody in the 20s that breaks out and become a star. And those guys are a dime a dozen. You're not going to find it. I mean, one out of every 5 years, 10 years, you're going to find a Draymond Green in the 20s. But it's not going to be something that happens often. Your Rudy Gobert in the 20s, something like that. That's who they need to find. But that's kind of the luck of the draw.
That's a team that would have loved to have landed Kyle Kuzma. I think that would be a perfect fit for him. But again, the Lakers, they're still trying to figure out how they want to manage their assets. Kind of like, let's flip it back to the East now and dysfunctional franchises. You're also looking at a crossroad for the Boston Celtics right now. Kyrie's future is, well, I don't know what else you can say that's like up in the air, but it is a complete mystery because, there was chatter throughout the year, and now this is when it's only going to get louder. Right now, if you're Danny Ainge, you spent all that time hoarding the picks, getting, the young players in. This is the time you have to cash in. You struck out last season when you lost Game 7 at home. You had this just nightmarish type year where the team couldn't get on the same page. Yeah, you won 8 playoff series, but you were considered a finals contender. And now here you are going into another summer where you're not exactly sure how you're going to come out of this one. So if you're Danny Ainge and you're looking at the team you have right now, what would you do?
So, I mean, it's really hard to be Danny Ainge because you just have a lot of things riding on Kyrie. Is if Kyrie resigns, you can throw the boat for Anthony Davis, and you can build like a really good finals contending team. Trade Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, go out, get Anthony Davis, and you play Marcus Smart, Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, Anthony Davis, Al Horford. You come off the bench with like a Marcus Morris, Aaron Baines. You find a couple guards from the scrap heap because your boy, Scary Terry seems like he's through. And
I'm fed up.
Semi Ojeleye, get more minutes. There's a path to glory. And even if Kyrie leaves and you don't trade for Anthony Davis, you still have Jason Tatum, you still have Jaylen Brown. Gordon Hayward does have a huge contract that, you're kind of unsure of, but Gordon Hayward's going to be entering year 3. You're going to have 2 more years. You're going to have year 3 and year 4 of Gordon Hayward. He's off the books. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are still under 25. You can re-upload Al Horford for 2 years, and then one, you can pay Tatum, you can pay Brown, and then you can get a free agent with the money you're going to be saving. There's still a big, the hope in Boston, the bigger picture, there's still a chance that you come out with a finals contending team. It's the picture is not bleak. It's not, you're not the Lakers, and I don't want to be harping on the Lakers, but it is one of my favorite pastimes to harp on the Lakers. It's like, if you don't get a free agent, where do you go from here if you're the Lakers, And you're not the Orlando Magic. You still have a top 10 coach. You still have a top 10 GM. You still have, 2 or 3 players in the top 25 under 25. It's not the worst case scenario. You're not Cleveland. You're not, who are these other, you're not the Knicks. You're not the Phoenix Suns. You're still going to be contending to make a big splash. Like if everything goes right, you're in the finals.
It's funny, and I look at it as them just being spoiled crybabies about it, but that is the exact way. It's like there's going to be a way out of this. There's still a plan B. It's just not the way they want to, hear it play out.
And the Boston fans have the Red Sox, who just won a championship, and the Patriots, who keep winning championships, and the Bruins. Like, if the Boston Celtics suck, oh well. Go ahead, watch a different sport. You're probably going to have a championship contending team.
Just go change your hat. You guys will be fine. But now let's look at our actual finals matchup. We were just talking about how we got here and kind of, the players and all of it. But come this week, it's going to be, the first ever finals game outside the United States. You're going to have all of Canada rooting for, the nation's team of the Raptors. And then we're looking at a Golden State team that is going for a place in the history books. Not they already don't have one, but we're talking about a dynasty that nowadays would only be a pipe dream. So just starting off, looking at the matchup on paper, I think Toronto does have a chance, but they're going to need a lot of breaks, I think, along the way, and probably some exceptional performances too.
On paper, Toronto looks like the stronger team with KD out. KD and Boogie out. Toronto looks like the better team, but from watching Toronto in the playoffs, it's clear that how far Kawhi goes is how far Toronto goes. Pascal Siakam's been okay in the playoffs. He's had his up and downs. He needs to play like a superstar. He needs to match Draymond Green 100%. Kyle Lowry has struggled in and out. He's had some good games. He's had some horrible games. He's got to be on his A game every day, every game. Marc Gasol is a very good defensive center, still is a very good defensive center, but sometimes he catches the ball on the pick and pops and he looks tentative to shoot. He looks like he doesn't really want to assert himself. And Marc Gasol is somebody that needs to assert himself and be, a star on the offensive, because they need him putting up 15 points a game. He can't go into the finals and have his 3 for 7 for 8 points. It's not going to help them. Marc Gasol, I think, can be a big factor. They're getting OG Anunoby back. Fred VanVleet played really good the last 2 games of the series. If Fred VanVleet keeps hitting shots, that's gonna help him a little bit. But really, it's how far can Kawhi take them is kind of where the Raptors season's hanging in a balance.
The only thing that I want to say probably the biggest thing that worries me is the coaching matchup. I like Nick Nurse. I think he's done well. He took a pretty good team that turned into an elite team over the season and got them to the finals. But when I look across and see Steve Kerr, that's probably one of your best coaches of the past 10 years in the NBA.
And that's somebody that's been to the finals,
yes,
multiple years in a row, that can handle the pressure, that is tested, while Nick Nurse is a first-year coach.
I know it shouldn't come as like a big matchup point, but I feel there's going to be a lot of critical situations to where, say if you're Toronto, you're down 4 with under 2 minutes. Are you going to have that go-to play? Are you going to be able to drop that one necessary stop? Are you not going to fall into that Warriors lull where you mentioned it earlier, die by 1,000 paper cuts?
That's why it's pretty much how far can Kawhi take them. That's the story of the finals.
So if you're Nurse, then who do you have Kawhi on if KD is going to be out for games 1 and 2?
Steph.
Yeah, I think that's your best chance to at least slow him down. You put a bigger, longer body on Steph. At least he's not going to try and get as fancy and reckless with the ball. But then it rolls over to, will Klay Thompson heat up? To which there are nights when he will go, what's a good one, like 12 of 14 from three or something absurd like that. But then you'll get the 3 of 13 nights.
I wouldn't 100% put Kawhi on Steph. I would use some Danny Green, use some Kyle Lowry, but in the third and fourth quarter, I'd probably go 90% Kawhi. I would save the Kawhi chasing him around every play until the third and fourth quarter, just not to wear him out in the first half. I think Danny Green and Kyle Lowry can at least help contain or help slow him down or help just just be a thorn in his side. I think they can play physical with him. But the Kawhi matchup, Kawhi has proven that he can guard Giannis and still be a force on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't really have any worries of Kawhi having to take two-way duty like that. But I would also, just to save his legs a little bit, I would go Lowry and Danny Green a little bit in the first half, and then have Kawhi Leonard in the second half.
We'll even use one of your boys here. I think you can also throw Siakam from time to time too, with just how naturally long and strong he can be.
The Siakam versus Draymond Green matchup, I think that's going to be the one that's going to be a big factor in the series. If Siakam can kind of contain Draymond Green, because Draymond Green was the best player on the floor in the Western Conference Final. He just took over with will, like his willpower, his determination, just his energy just took over the game. If Siakam can match that or at least contain that, that's going to be a big stepping stone forward for Toronto to hopefully, win the series.
I think it's not necessarily like a player matchup, but will Toronto be able to withstand the, flurry of punches that Golden State throws? Last season and prior years, it was always the third quarter Warriors. This time around, it's just a matter of when that avalanche is coming. We saw the Blazers in the Western Conference Final hold double-digit leads, and I believe it was 3 out of the 4 games, and they were gone in almost an instant. So if you're Toronto, you got to be able to not only handle those runs, but recover from them as well and not fall into that trap to keep trying to go blow for blow, but try and slow them down and get back into the swing of things.
What's crazy is even if the Warriors get in trouble and it's 2-2 and a series are tied, and and who's gonna make that big knockout punch, that flurry, they got a guy in Kevin Durant that's coming back soon. If Kevin Durant is even 85 to 90% of Kevin Durant, he's gonna be a monster. If Kevin Durant comes back and Kawhi has to guard Kevin Durant, that's just gonna loosen up Steph Curry a little bit more. What a luxury.
The only thing I could probably compare it to is when you were playing the old Pokemon games and you would get a gym leader down to their last 2 or 3 Pokemon, and then boom, max revive, hyper potion. The incoming fury and frustration,
yeah, it's like you
dead.
It's like you're battling Lance, and you get past his Gyarados and he comes out with Dragonite and you're like, oh god. It's so, I mean, can you imagine if Boogie made an appearance in this series? Boogie was like, yeah, I'm ready to play. I can play 10 minutes. And he's just just throws Marcus Fall for a loop. Imagine if Boogie was healthy, man. Oh.
I think if Boogie was healthy, this would be over fairly quick. It was funny. Everyone, or the NBA's, held to a standard of it's the most fun league. It's the most competitive, all the stars and everything. We're having one team reach the finals now for the
15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
6 years in a row. 6? Did I do that right? No. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 5 years. 5 years in a row. They got 4 of them. They
have 3. They're 3 of 4. They're entering the fifth finals.
That is like I'm gonna look back at this run and just be in amazement. And you know, the same way people say the Patriots are bad for the NFL, I think the Warriors are in that same class. Everyone hates the villain, but doesn't do anything to do. Like, what can you do about it? They're the bad guys.
It was all good until KD signed. The hate started when KD signed because it's like, man, you guys are already really good, 73-9, then you signed KD. That was the only reason like they're the villains now. They started off as like,
Fun. Like
yeah,
you're
they were like, oh,
oh, this
like
is cool.
the
Yeah.
the ball whips around, they're shooting hella threes. Steph is shimmying all over the place. Klay Thompson plays D, says nothing, shoots threes, and Klay Thompson is a little bit out of this world. You know, they were a fun team, and then they signed KD.
I think what the story, and it's never been confirmed, but it's generally accepted that apparently Draymond called KD that night after Game 7, after they blew the 3-1 lead. I think that was like the infuriating point. Like, man, you really had to go and cry to this man to like, we can't do it. We need you. We've been
So
exposed.
so if KD leaves, you think the Warriors are a long shot to sign Kawhi?
I don't think we can count the Warriors out of anything at this point because we didn't think. Had you asked us on like June 27th or 28th, like, oh, is KD going to go to a team that just won 73 games? Or like, no, he's got no place there. Why would he want to do that? There's no competition. There's no means for him to go. 5 days later, oh shit.
I would have to look at the cap number and see if they would be able to open up a max slot. I highly doubt that could happen, but there could also be like some weird sign and trade that happens that involves like Draymond and
If I'm picking right now, I'm saying it's Kawhi's going to the Clippers, Katie's going to the Knicks, Kemba's going to the Knicks, Kyrie.
if I had to pick it right now, Kyrie stays in Boston and they trade for Anthony Davis. I would say Kawhi is going to the Clippers. I don't know if they get a second star. That second star might be like a Chris Middleton or a Tobias Harris, which is absolutely fine. I think Kawhi with what they have in Clipperland plus another guy like Chris Middleton and Tobias Harris is a very fun team. I think KD is going to the Knicks. I don't think he's getting anybody to come play with him for the Knicks. I think Kemba stays in Charlotte. I think he gets a supermax. I think Dame stays in Portland because I think he gets a supermax. Jimmy Butler might be a Knick, might be a Laker. I think Jimmy Butler is either going to be a Knick or he's going to be a Laker.
Now, with all those predictions, we still have one more prediction to make. Who's winning the finals and in how many games?
Putting $100 on Toronto. Toronto's plus 260, so that's $100 to win 260. I think that's good odds.
I was just going to say, I'm going to throw 20 on Toronto, see if anything comes of it, but I think
$20 wins you $52. So I mean,
double your money.
yeah. Well, you get $52 plus your 20 back.
Triple my money.
Yeah.
I'm going to just say Golden State's going to take care of business in no less than 5.
It goes more than 5. I think it goes 7. I think it goes 2-2, and then Durant makes his return. And I don't think Durant is close to 80%. I think Durant's more like a 70% guy. And I think Kawhi just continues his hot play. And Kawhi just cements his claim as the best player in the league. Right now, we all thought LeBron, KD, Steph is kind of your top 3, and then Harden and Giannis had the seasons that they had, and that was kind of your top 5. I think Kawhi has broken down all that barrier, everything. I think whenever you talk about best player in the league now, Kawhi's name has to be mentioned.
This very well could be that breakout stage, and I know that's weird to say for someone who's already won a Finals MVP, but you show yourself to the entire sports world that you can bring a title to a franchise that had never even had been on your first try, I believe that does a lot more for his legacy, which is going to make it a lot more awkward when he heads back home to California.
And I think he can even take the Clippers as far as the Western Conference Finals. So, like, if Kawhi was on this year's Clippers, I think they're the second best team in the West. Now, if he was on this year's Clippers, they would have to play Golden State in the first round. But like, if Kawhi was on the Clippers for the whole season, I think they'd be like a 1 or 2 seed. I really like what the Clippers have, and then adding Kawhi is just gonna make that team so much better.
And we had mentioned this in prior episodes. The off-season ones are going to be a lot of fun for us. So
we're gonna be on live for like the first whole week.
Thankfully, they bumped it back a little bit, so we won't have to stay up all night.
Well, I mean, we could start recording at 6:00 and just supercut. Like, we're probably going to be on live.
Just to have it all said and done. No more wasted episodes. Looking at you, Bron. That pretty much kind of encapsulates how the NBA's been. Just kind of looking back at the regular season, this is just a fun sport to watch and interact with. Just on a night-to-night basis, you never know if a player is going to throw soup at a coach. If an announcer is going to throw shade at, the current best player in the game because he wants to bring wine courtside.
Jimmy Butler hijacking practice.
That it's funny, like how far down you have to go. Just this season's list, you're like, oh wow, that did happen this year alone.
Markelle Fultz.
Wow, Markelle Fultz.
I can't believe that happened this season. Markelle Fultz is like such a forethought. Like, he missed more games with Philadelphia and then ended up getting traded to Orlando. Like, that happened. Like, he still is out too. Like,
and it's funny you bring up Philadelphia. That's another frustrating, fork in the road right now. It's Ben Simmons refuses to shoot the ball, and you're in a league that needs shooting. And you kind of you put a lot of assets into this season. Now what?
Well, they took Jahlil Okafor instead of Kristaps Porzingis. They took Nerlens Noel. I guess Markelle Fultz is considered. If they never made the trade for Markelle Fultz, they would have had Jason Tatum at 3. Like a team with like Ben Simmons and Jason Tatum and Kristaps Porzingis and Joel Embiid is a team that would be a dynasty, But like, even then, you never thought it. I mean, I guess having Nerlens Noel and Joel Embiid on the roster and then taking Jahlil Okafor is kind of, what are you doing? kind of moment. But still, hindsight's 2020.
It is 2020, but it's always fun to talk about as if it can be changed. That all being said, it's probably our favorite sport to talk about. We get a whole nother second season just with, not only draft, but free agency. Then we go right into summer league. It's going to be the summer of Zion. Everyone's going to be paying attention to every single move that man makes, but don't sleep on John Morant either.
Yeah, and the draft is top 3 heavy, but pick 4 through 12, there's some guys there that can help your team even after pick 12. I think like a guy like Bol, who's 7'3", that shoots threes, but then hurt his foot, and is dropping down draft. Like, he was a top 10 pick if he would have stayed healthy. Somebody's going to get him at like 20. And if he gets healthy and continues to develop, he's somebody that can be, legitimately scary for a team and like a big steal. There's guys like Brandon Clark, who I love. There's guys like Naz Reid, who's going to be like a second-round pick, who's going to just show up. Naz Reid like would be a perfect replacement for Clint Capella, and he would probably give you 85 to 95% of the production Capella does in Houston. There's guys like Carson Edwards, who I fell in love with during the tournament for Purdue, who is just a scorer and goes out there. I think he can make some noise if he's there. Like Admiral Schofield, you can find in the second round. There's so much talent. There's just not game-changing talent. There's a ton of role players. There's a ton of guys that, if used correctly, would be perfect. Like even in the top 10, DeAndre Hunter, Jared Culver, guys that can help. Cam Reddish, like guys that can help your team a lot.
Yeah, it just so happens that sometimes a franchise lands at the number 4 pick and is extremely impatient and doesn't want to necessarily do the wait and see game no more, and therefore sells the pick for the first viable package they can get. But hey, shit happens.
Cam Reddish would be perfect on the team. The team lacks jump shooting. Cam Reddish is probably the best shooter in the draft. 6'8", 6'8" with range. You kind of need a Cam Reddish there. I think they draft Cam Reddish, or they get desperate and they package number 4 pick for CP3. I don't know. Things could happen.
I think have we recorded since All NBA was announced?
We have not.
So I know we made our own little predictions. I believe we got first teams on the money.
Yeah.
And then some guys on the second and third teams, we kind of had flip flopped a little bit with some guys getting snubbed altogether.
The 15-man All NBA team, I think we were 15 for 15. We just didn't know where we want to put him. Other than I think you had Kyrie completely off because you hated what he did to the Boston Celtics this season.
It was a bad week for me and Kyrie. We weren't speaking right then.
I think the only snub. Okay, there was a couple. I think Klay Thompson and Bradley Beal both kind of deserve to be on it. I don't know if I might. I don't remember if I left Russell Westbrook off or if I wrote this like, well, I can't leave Russell Westbrook off. But that's somebody. Russell Westbrook and Kyrie were kind of on the fence, and Kemba, and then they were doing their little dance with Klay and with Bradley Beal to see who would be the guy that gets in. So that does affect a lot of stuff, though. Kemba making third team All NBA, he's now eligible for the Supermax. With Klay and with Bradley Beal missing out on All NBA, they are not eligible for the Supermax. So Washington lucked out because if you Supermax Brad Beal and Supermax, John Wall, you're literally giving all your money period to those two, which is not something you want to do. So Washington kind of lucked out on that. I think Golden State kind of lucked out on that too because they would have had to dump the Brinks truck for Klay, and then they wouldn't really be able to afford much people. But oh well, that's a Warriors problem that I wish they had. But
that's the thing. It's like, oh, we just won, our 4th or 5th title, and now we got to figure out how to pay everybody. So
Kemba's going to get paid. Kemba's going to get the Supermax from Charlotte. Charlotte can't afford to let him go, and Charlotte can't afford to keep him. They're right they're in between a rock and a hard place, and it's like I feel bad for Charlotte, but at the same time I don't. So whatever.
I think you just feel bad for Kemba because you have a very keen liking to this player, and it's like no matter what, the team can't find a way to take care of him or get him in a stable situation, and now they can't pay their bills.
Yeah, Kemba Walker is the heart and soul of the Charlotte Hornets. I wish Kemba Walker was like the heart and soul of like the San Antonio Spurs. Like I wish he was just at a better situation. Like I wish he was the heart and soul of like the Denver Nuggets with like Nikola Jokic, but that's where you ended up with. You ended up in Charlotte, and you're the heart and soul of the Charlotte Hornets instead of the heart and soul of like the Golden State Warriors or Portland. Like if Kemba is every bit the player Dame Lillard is. Those are my two favorite point guards in the league, Kemba Walker and Damian Lillard. And Kemba is every bit of a player that Damian Lillard is. But Damian Lillard has such the success in Portland that Kemba doesn't. And Kemba means just as much to that Charlotte franchise as Damian Lillard does to the Portland Trailblazers. But Damian Lillard has all this success, but Kemba is still just, a perpetual 8 to 10 seed in Charlotte in a weaker conference, no less in the East.
I think we're going to take a trip down memory lane. Is my one time seeing Dame Lillard in person. Poor Ronnie Price thought he could check him at 3/4 court.
That's Ronnie Price's fault. Why are you checking him at half court?
Checked him at half court. Dame picks up his dribble, jets right to the basket, and dunks on the help defense. And the
That
worst
was
part
good times.
it was like a car crash. We just saw it coming from a mile away, like, oh dear, oh no.
And it was even before that. I was like, yeah, it's 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Dane's probably going to check in. How many did he got? 17. He's probably going to end the game with 30. He ended the game with like 41 or something. He had like 17 in the fourth quarter or something crazy. I don't remember. But he went off in the fourth quarter, dunked on the entire team, hit threes. It's like, hey, Dame's going off right now. We got to witness Dame time in person. That's one of my cherished NBA memories.
We witnessed Dame time, and we also saw Jordan Hill's career game. That was a very weird
I got
game.
to see Carlos Boozer in person, Jeremy Lin on that Laker team. Nick Young. Nick Young had the Staples Center crowd eating out of the palm of his hands, and he went 1 of 8 from 3.
Every shot, like he would pull up, the entire arena stands up. Swaggy.
Yeah, he went like 1 of 8 or something like that. And like the 1 3 he hit the one he went like 0 of 5 to start the game, and then he hit one, and it was like a mild applause because everybody was kind of like already swaggied out, you know. That was such a good game to go to.
It really was, and it's funny. You look back. That was the NBA of 2015. Like
And we didn't get to see Kobe play because he was like on and off injured. That was like we were supposed to see Kobe play that day too, and Kobe didn't play.
Hate to see it. Hate to see it. I think I was lucky enough to at least see IT time, or King of the Fourth, back when Isaiah was still in the Celtics. Similar thing. I think he only had like 10 points going into the fourth, finished with like 28. So it was a better time, happier times.
That's one guy I hope gets his career back on track.
It was funny, like when the Nuggets and the Blazers played into 4 overtimes. I'm like, did Isaiah make the trip? Like, where? Oh no, he's on the bench. He's still. Are we gonna get in? No. Yes. Guess not.
They kind of had it. You kind of have to tailor the offense to him because he needs like a certain offense, a certain way. He needs the ball in his hand. He needs picks. He needs to be able to get some space to work. You kind of have to 100% play through him, and if he's injured, if he's not 100% like he was in Boston, it's hard to do that, especially when he's coming off the bench, to tailor a bench offense for Isaiah. I just hope he finds a good situation.
It's going to be a situation, but you have to hope the health holds up, because this was a guy who was starting to, really kick in on that superstar door. He had made the All-Star team and looked like he was heading for great things, but unfortunately, his body did not want to cooperate. With all that being said, you have any leftover thoughts on the NBA this year?
On the NBA, no. The NBA, with all its ups and downs and its twists and turns, ends exactly how we thought it was going to end. So,
kind of anticlimactic by us, huh?
Yeah. I hate that it's like the finals isn't going to start for like another 3 days. I don't know what to do with myself.
And this is my gripe with it. It's game, I think, like 3 days off game.
Yeah. So wait, what was the snail tweet? The snail tweet. If you get $1 billion right now, but a snail chases you.
Yes, I will read it off right now. This is what the offseason will consist of. So to set up the premise, you have $10 million straight cash right in front of you. Crisp hundreds, fives, ones, whatever you want to get it in. Boom, you're all set. But here are the catches for the $10 million. There is a snail. So, snail.
Not even 10 million. Let's up it. $10 billion.
10 billion?
Let's up it. $10 billion.
10 billion. So a snail is chasing you for the rest of your life. And if it touches you in any way, shape, or form, you're dead. End of
not
story.
Not even you die. You die the most horriblest way possible. Like Jason Voorhees busting in your room and dumping you in a vat of nitrogen.
I think for me, it's death by coffin of spiders. I can't think of anything worse.
Like something horrible, like 100%, like you getting put on a meat hook and Leatherface takes a chainsaw and cuts you in half. Like the worst way to go. Period. I've been watching a lot of horror movies, so
Snail cannot be killed. It will always know your location, and its only purpose is to go find you. So it's not going to stop and feed or any of that. So when it says it cannot be killed, I think that incorporates that it does not age, and therefore it will not die of old age.
but if you get the old age, could you imagine? That'll be something like you live a full, healthy life and you're like 80 years old and you're just sitting on a beach somewhere just waiting for the snail to come get you and end your life. That went a little dark. That took a turn.
I would take it. You said you would take it. I didn't get an
I
answer.
100% take it.
All Mario said was snail running GIF. So
He just sent a gift. Yeah, I would take it. I'd 100% take it. So I did the research. A snail goes 0.7 miles per day. Now, the caveat is you don't know where the snail is. So if you fly 1,000 miles, across the sea, what's to say the snail was already across the sea to begin with? Like, you don't know where the snail is. So that's one of the things. But like, I guess if you keep on moving left to right, globe to globe, like you can start in Italy somewhere and then come back to the US and then move blah 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 elsewhere. If it's $10 billion, you might have enough money to go ahead and evade the snail and live a long, happy life until you're like 67 years old and you're just waiting to die of natural causes, or you wait for the snail to come get you, or God forbid you take your own life. So the snail doesn't, so you don't die horribly. And I'm just saying, but I think I would take it. I think that's something that I would do.
and I think the other follow-up question, just looking at this thread, you get 10 shots to make one NBA three-pointer. If you make one, you get $1 billion. If you don't make any, you go to maximum security prison for a year. Now, what stands out to me for this is it doesn't tell me where I have to shoot from, so I can do
NBA range.
Yeah, no. I'm saying like I don't have to do it from the corner, the wing. I'm going straight on. I might have to go for a bank shot.
Wherever you're most comfortable to try to make an NBA 3-pointer.
For the longest time, I was always comfortable shooting from the corner. I don't know why. I just felt comfortable in the corners.
The corner shorter.
That could be why.
Yeah, the corner shorter, as well as when you are shooting. Some people are more comfortable up top because you have the depth perception of the backboard, as well as like the square on the backboard. You kind of can aim. The corner, it's kind of more form and feel, and it's a little bit shorter. So I mean, I'm comfortable either way. I feel like I'm more comfortable straight up, but there's times where I'm super comfortable in the corner. It just really depends on the day and whatnot. But I would 100% take that.
I think, and if this ever, if we're able to make the plans for it, I know they have this like shooting thing at most theme parks, and I think I've seen at Six Flags before, whereas they have the same NBA setup, and you basically have to make those shots, and you win the prize or whatever. I think that'll have to be the proving ground to see if we are actually comfortable with said challenge, because there's some kind of pressure involved. Granted, I'm not going to prison pressure, but
okay. So the only caveat is, if I miss the 10 shots and I go to prison, I can't die. You just got to promise me I survive, and I'll take the chance of having to spend a year in Supermax to potentially win $1 billion. If I don't make it in the first 5 shots, though, oh my God, you'd be sweating balls. Don't want to take the shot. You just start tearing up, crying, face is swelling. It's like, I don't want to go to jail, man.
I think I'd have to tell myself, like, I'm going to try these last 5 shots at a later time. Make sure I can like practice a little bit more and work. Like, hold on, pause. Come back to this later.
And I think the last tweet that I want to bring up is you get 5 championships for the rest of your life. How do you spread it amongst your favorite teams?
I am the absolute last person to ask about that question.
Is it going to be 5 for the Patriots? Because so I would give 1 to the Ravens, 1 to the Bulls. I don't even know if I give 1 to the Bulls. Like, I don't care that much to see the Bulls win a championship. I care that they play basketball like actual competitive basketball, but I don't really care that much if they win a championship or not. So I would either give 3 or 4 to the Cubs, and I would give 1 to the Ravens because I've seen every Ravens Super Bowl win that they have in history so far. So like I would feel like I'm okay if the Ravens don't win a Super Bowl again in my lifetime.
I would say, like, obviously, from being friends with you and everything, I don't think anything's taken away the 2016 title from you. Like, I believe that's just an unobtainable high that will not be topped.
Are we talking about the Cubs or the Patriots?
The Cubs 2016 World Series.
Okay. All right.
The Cubs 2016. You had the Ravens miracle run in 2013 with Joe Flacco going unconscious, Ray's last ride. I think I'd have to give that a pretty good gap, put it like in this general area. Something like that. I don't know. Reason being is, like, do you think any of those championships could ever come close to those highs?
No, but I would rather see 4 more Cubs championships in my lifetime. That'd be nice.
Would look pretty nice with more championship flags flying in the wind. I will.
Yeah, definitely.
And if all still goes well, hopefully be seeing that place in the near future.
I mean, if Derrick Rose was still 100% healthy, I would definitely give the Bulls a championship. But like, there's nobody on the Bulls right now that I connect with on that level.
And that was actually going to be my next question. Is I actually saw it pop up on Twitter as well, talking about Derrick Rose never gets hurt. Are we talking about the 2011 NBA champion Chicago Bulls?
Because like Derrick Rose never gets hurt. Jimmy Butler develops into what we think he is. They don't trade Luol Deng. The Joakim Noah never falls off a cliff. Joakim Noah return story this year in Memphis was actually fun to watch. He actually looked healthy, and it was like, wow, Joakim Noah still has game left over. Like, that's another NBA story that happened that doesn't even make front page. Joakim Noah, the return of Joakim Noah. Yeah, but like, man, like this, like on the Ravens, I don't really connect with it. Like after Ray Lewis and Ed Reed are gone, after Terrell Suggs, there's not really one player I 100% connect with. Same thing with the Bulls. After Derrick Rose is gone, after Jimmy Butler's gone, there's not really that 100% guy that I'm going to go to battle with or want to root on for the rest of his life, even if he changes teams. With the Cubs, with Baez and Bryant and Rizzo and Contreras, there's just so many guys that I enjoy watching play, and it's like I want to see those guys succeed and win a championship and be the best team in baseball. So that's just where I'm the point of where I'm at with Bulls and Ravens fandom. It's like I don't really connect with any of the players right now. I still root for the team. There's not really, I'm riding and dying with this group of guys.
And then I think that's going to be the situation I find myself with the Patriots is, I've been watching Tom Brady since I was literally 10 years old. And now this is obviously the twilight, but it's like, what's after this? Because I started getting invested in the Jimmy G era, and then Jimmy moves on. But
and it's especially hard with the Patriots because they move on so quickly.
I mean, everyone's been replaceable, but number 12 to this point, and it's like, damn. But to answer your first question, if I had 5 more to spread out, I would give 1 more to Tom so he can retire with 7. Because I think just that 1 more putting him over the top would just be just that little inclination just to make it a little bit sweeter. I would probably put 2 more on the Sox, and then 1 more for the Bruins and Celtics. Let's face it, the Red Sox are never catching the Yankees when it comes to their rings count, but that's how Yankee fans want to carry their business. More power to them. I have no issue with bragging about prior team history. Just know that their championships came when baseball was pretty much only played by one group of people, and there was like 5 teams.
Yeah.
The same can be said about the Celtics, though. So, pick and choose.
True, but I mean, I guess. I mean, the Yankees, what was it, 27?
That's 20.
Is the number.
Yeah.
It's a gaudy number. I feel like if it was like 8, like if it was like the Steelers, it was like, yeah, we got 6 rings. So okay, 6 isn't really that big of a number, you know. The Yankees going, we have 27. That's kind of a gaudy number. I guess that's something to be proud of. You know, you're not like Dallas, who hasn't won a ring since like 1990. It's like, yeah, we got like 5 rings, bro. You weren't alive for any of the rings, but okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, okay, and the Yankees, yes, they are, the class of baseball royalty. Plug that as you may, but when 2/3 of those championship came pre World War II, eh, eh,
If it wasn't in color, it doesn't count.
I think that'll be the next petition we get going. Last thing I kind of want to touch on, there was a huge debut over the weekend. All Elite Wrestling is a thing.
Oh, okay. I was like, what are we talking about now?
I had a chance to go back and watch the show today. There's a good product out there, man.
The tag team match is really, really good. They have a couple players. The only thing I am kind of worried about is the low to mid card and how would they be able to build the show every week. That's going to be the next step, is getting into weekly programming. You can only put so many Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros match. You can only do so much Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho. Who would I think Kenny is feuding with Dean Ambrose next, or John Moxley, whatever you want to call him. And I guess Jericho and Hangman Page is this next feud, and that's fine. It's all fine and dandy, but I feel like they need to kind of add a little bit more, or kind of elevate some of their lower mid card talent into the high tier talents. Losing Pac was a big one, and it's really hard to spread out New Japan, Ring of Honor, TNA Impact, WWE snatching up guys, NXT. There's a lot of different promotions, and it can work but they need to add a little bit more, I think, to the roster. I think the roster is kind of more on the lower mid card size, and there's not a lot of depth. There's not about a lot of length, like legitimate length and legitimate mid card to main card scene and talent. I think they just need to add a little bit more to that, or at least flesh out some more characters.
It's a good start, I will say that, but with it being their first showing, it was a step in the right direction. But I do agree the roster in general will need that depth. You're going to need, storyline variety. You're going to need guys that can do a little bit more, maybe elevate, some guys a bit here and there. But I think that's going to come with time. And when other contracts are going to be expiring, we could probably see a bit of a migration from whether it be the big dogs at WWE or any of the other smaller ones. I think they slowly start gravitating to the new popular promotion.
If they are able to be successful and to keep it rolling for the first year, I think the second and third year is going to be a lot better than the first year. So, I mean, right now, the main event was Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega. Chris Jericho is over 50. The match before that was the Lucha Bros versus the Young Bucks, which was a very awesome. I think it was the match of the night. They can only do that so much. They would need 2 to 3 more tag teams in that division to give those guys legitimate claim to having the best tag team wrestling, putting tag team wrestling on the map. But then the match before that was Dustin Rhodes versus Cody Rhodes, and Dustin Rhodes is at the end of his career as well. So, there's a couple of guys that are at the end of his career. And then before that, it was just like, it's not a lot of depth. So we'll see. I think it was a good step forward. Double or Nothing was really good. Production issues aside, I think their production could be a little bit cleaner, but that's just going to come with experience. And I think they'll be good for the wrestling business. It'll be good. I'm excited to see what happens moving forward.
Everyone I knew that went to the show said it was a great energy inside, that there was just constant engagement, and those are those things you'll need, in your favor when you want to go forward, is that, people were leaving the building with good attitudes. The internet's talking about you. You have a buzz. Now, how do you carry it over? With that being said, we also have a takeover this Saturday. Can never say no to a good takeover. So
Takeover Connecticut. Let's go.
New Haven.
Is that where it's at? New Haven?
Yeah, Connecticut itself is a trash can. Like how they ended up with. I know they were supposed to pair a takeover with Money in the Bank, but then this whole Saudi promotion.
Yeah, Saudi. Ooh, that's Saudi. I don't ever like any of the Saudi matches. I just feel like it's
We're really putting Undertaker and Goldberg out there for the world to see. Like that's
yeah.
what
We're getting Triple H versus Randy Orton again. There's not a lot. I guess they're making a ton of money from the Saudi. Oh well, there's gonna be no females competing on it again, and all this hoopla. I don't really like the Saudi cards too much. I think it's just like really self-serving for. It's kind of like WWE selling out for as much money as possible, and that's kind of what it is.
it exactly is. They sold to the highest bidder and they got a hell of a payday out of it. So Vince can go out and play with his new football league and wants to do these adventures and all these other questionable decisions. But that will have to be saved for a later episode because that would go on for hours. With that being said, thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Bleacher Preacher podcast. You can find the show on YouTube under Bleacher Preacher podcast, where we actually upload the stream that me and Rob are currently on. We're also on Twitter at Bleacher Preacher Pod and on Instagram at Bleacher Preacher Podcast as well. You can listen to the show on most major podcast platforms: Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, the Apple Podcast app. And then maybe, just maybe, one day we'll be on some of the other platforms too to get the show out there, spread the word, and maybe reach out to new countries. Apparently, people in Russia listen to us, so love you guys. To the listeners in Canada, our good friends down in the Dominican, much love to you as well, and all across the world. It blows my mind that some people across the world hear my voice and they're in countries I've never been to. That's just how I feel. Do they have the internet in Cambodia?
There's internet there. It's not fast.
We'll get back to your motherland real soon, man. So you can follow myself on Twitter at Jonathan_R, Rob.
Rob_BPP.
And credit to Rob, who was most likely playing the show this entire episode, but did not break a single like beam of concentration. So props to
I
you.
haven't been playing this whole episode.
A good portion.
Kinda.
Whatever it is, it works for him. So enjoy the NBA Finals, guys. We'll be talking to you guys again real soon. As always, thank you for tuning in and listening, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
Peace.